the $1 million
You are live.
applies to designating a public health impact and designating a negative economic impact for responding to pandemic harm. And they put culverts in due to climate change.
We are live.
We are live.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Ready, Dennis?
Right.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. And first thing we'll do is take a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Motion to that effect. Thank you, Frank. Dennis, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's- Okay, I'm gonna borrow your agenda. So the main reason we wanted to meet again today, even though we don't have our applications in yet, is to get an update from Rob York. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but I'm hoping that Wayne has some sort of update from him through via Ethan or whoever.
Well, there was an
Whomever.
email that was circulated, but because of the county's new system, I can't get it on my phone right now.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
It
All right, maybe we can get some help.
was emailed out to you. Amanda sent the email out
Okay,
that had it attached.
okay. In the meantime, I do want to take note of, we still have to, we are down one member of the committee. And it was recommended that we hold off and see who gets appointed as Michael Biddle's replacement at the ARCC. And see if that person would be interested or a good fit before we fill it with someone else from the community. Does the committee feel okay with that
Yes.
proposal? Okay, good.
While we're waiting, can I offer something?
Yes, somebody needs to mute themselves on there.
What else? Another.
There, he's got, it.
There. His replacement.
You know that?
Oh, yeah. One,
Okay. I don't know that that's public yet.
but he was approved by this.
Oh.
By our board in Washington County, so. The idea.
No, no, not for the IDA. His
He's my-
position as, yeah, ARCC
Oh,
chair,
okay.
what president, whatever he's called.
Yep.
Hey, Amanda, I can't pull this up on my phone either. This
The-
email.
Email, I'm printing it right now.
Thank you. Okay, Wayne, go ahead.
In the interim, while we wait for technology to take hold here, I'd like to introduce Gina Martin. Gina has been added to our office under the ARPA funding. She has been thrown under the bus real quick, and is still learning lots, but we're very glad to have her. And what I asked Gina to do for today, and she has copies here. We have received applications so far.
Right.
And I asked her to just do a list and how much you're asking for, just what we've got to date.
Okay,
And we can distribute that out if you're,
yeah,
okay.
that'd be great. While she does that, I know that Don Lehman has been getting requests about what the deadline was, and I went back and looked at our minutes and we said August
That
1st.
is correct.
So August 1st is the absolute deadline. We're gonna try to hold to that, and whatever we've got at that point, we've got, and we'll start going through the applications using the scoring criteria that we passed already. That would be great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure that Ethan reached out. We asked him to, so I'll confirm with him, but reached out to everybody who had submitted a project idea to make sure that they knew that this application was out there and they had to submit another round of info.
Correct.
You want to give us a synopsis?
Well, I'm reading it for the first time, so,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah,
No, not the Rob thing, this thing.
Oh,
okay, I'll leave that to Gina.
so on
Gina,
the
yeah,
bottom,
please.
It's just the list of applications that we received, brief description and how much they are asking for. On the top are the contracts that we've received, the Adirondack Sports Complex, the Warren County Community Services Board, the Greater Glens Falls Transit, and the signed contract that we have from Southern Adirondack Child Care Center.
Gina, do you have a total for this? Are you gonna make me do it?
Yeah,
A total for all the amounts requested?
Yeah.
I do not.
you're gonna have to use your rough math skills there,
Yeah,
Dennis.
they're really rough.
That'd be great. This is really interesting. So if you could email this out to the committee, that'd be helpful, and we'll get it up on the web, Amanda. Thank you, with the agenda materials.
Over 7 million,
Thank you, Mike.
What is it?
a little over 7 million.
Some really.
It might be
interesting-
off a little bit, but
Yeah, it was closer to.
Just for people who are online following along, we've got things like water quality, support to Family Services Association, processing equipment for a recycling place, septic, therapy, training for tutors, funding for not-for-profits, notifications, app development. Oh, for the Office of Emergency Services. Additional counselor vehicle for Baywood Center, some loss of income from restaurants and businesses. Storefront assistance, small business assistance, I should say. Replacement funds for ambulance for North Warren Emergency Squad. Improvements for winter operation, loss of income for a business. Some really interesting things. It's gonna be hard for us. Any questions for Gina? Okay, so as soon as that deadline closes, August 1st, the plan is how long do you think you guys need to kind of help us get them organized?
Well, Gina's getting them organized as they come in. So,
Oh, good.
she's got files all set up for them and so it's a matter of how the group here wants to handle them, because you're not gonna be able to handle all, you know, if we double this amount in the next time, by the next meeting, you're not gonna be able to handle them all at once. So it's a matter of how do we want to do the rating and review sheets, and the discussion on this, and that's, I don't know if we can put them into categories of like lost revenue versus, you know, whatever else we've got here, equipment or. Cause they run the gamut. They're not. all-
Yeah, I see that.
How about if we put them in order according to their ask?
Well, what we can do is put them in chronological order. I mean, that's,
Which ones came in first?
yeah,
I don't want
First
to do
come,
that.
first served?
What if we do for-profit in one and not-for-profits in another?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
And then there's
Good.
some municipals, so do that, do 3 categories like that.
That's excellent. I like that.
I was serious. I think we should list them according to their ask.
I agree.
So when we look at it, you know, we can,
Let's do that within each category, though.
right.
Okay. You got that, Gina?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. This is good. All right, great. Anything else on the process? I think we should meet maybe 2 or 3 weeks after they come in. Just give us a couple weeks. 1, 2, 3. Or should we schedule a meeting sooner than that to kind of get organized and then another meeting to score them and start making awards?
Do we need to get together to talk about how we're gonna score them? I mean, I know we have
We
the
did-
scoring,
Oh,
we
okay.
have the scoring sheet and so forth. But I mean, are we gonna individually work on that and then come back together? Or are we gonna do it all in the committee at one time?
Well, there's a couple points to that is. If you do them individually, then we've got to make copies for everybody of
Right.
all the information. All right, that's a lot. It can be done, but it's a lot. My recommendation is that we meet maybe on the 10th. And we have this updated list. We have it broken down by categories. And then we can make a determination then about is there subcommittees that take a category
And they score them?
and they score them? And then we all get back together at some point and say, here's the raw scores.
See,
And,
that's what I'm talking about. How are we gonna
Okay,
do
okay.
that?
I think once
I
we
think
see
that's a
how-
good idea once we see what the overall universe of these are. Go ahead.
So at the beginning, we had picked categories that we want to fund and put dollar amounts within them.
Yes.
So there's like a lot of businesses on here. We put $1 million away for businesses. We've already given 200. So do we want to continue along that path and group them in those and revisit those dollar amounts? Or do we just kind of want to move on based on what we got? Because I think we'd put like a lot of money in categories that maybe we don't have a lot of applications for. So how are we gonna manage that?
That's a good idea, a good concern.
And we can split.
I think obviously the for-profit ones, a lot of those guys are just in that one category that we talked about, the economic recovery.
Right.
I have to go back and look at our different categories, which unfortunately don't exactly match up with the ARPA categories. Now, it seems like. I'm looking at you, Mr. Elman. But, maybe that's something we can, break up into each category.
That's what I'm thinking is if we took each category and tried to see if there's in the three subsets, as you said,
Yeah,
not-for-profit, municipal and for-profit in each category and just see where we are. And that's what the meeting I think for the 10th would be is like. Our initial thoughts are out the window because the applications don't reflect that or,
okay,
until we know what we've got, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to kind of change course a little
Yeah.
bit.
and we put this money in little buckets, knowing that we're gonna probably have to change it around anyway, so that's okay, I'm not worried about that. Who did? Oh, Amanda, sorry,
Just wanted to point out that Supervisor Seaver
Oh.
had her hand up.
sorry, Rachel, go ahead, Supervisor Seaver.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm gonna lose my service in a second. But I just wanted to say that pretty much what you just said, Chairwoman, being able to be flexible with those dollars so that they could be transferred back and forth between those categories. It was never a hard and fast, but rather something to get us started. And I'd also be willing to meet on the 2nd if that would be helpful to kind of get our head around what's come in so that on the 10th we were productive and we could start making resolutions to go to the full board meeting for that 3rd week in August. Just in the interest of moving these along before people's fiscal years start to expire in October. So that was my only thought, and I'll probably lose you, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I appreciate your ambitious desire to move forward. I do know that there was a request to move us back to Tuesday, so if we're gonna do something, I'd say the 9th, August 9th, if people are okay with that.
We're doing the 9th or the 10th,
9th. Can you do Tuesday, the 9th?
probably.
And then before we get to Rob, there's two things on our pending items that I wanted to touch on briefly. Supervisor Bruno is here with us, who's chair of the Facilities Committee. And there were a couple of things that we've left on there, and I'm glad you're able to join us today. You want to give us an update on where things stand?
Sure thing, and I see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. So we had our monthly meeting yesterday and we've been discussing the former jail building all along. Excuse me. Supervisor McGowan is the vice chair, so if he wants to jump in as well, anytime, he's welcome. We have Superintendent Pajos, Public Works, has undertaken studies of this building with respect to asbestos abatement and selective demolition of the interior. And the total for those two through the consultant their estimate is $495,000 to accomplish that. Additionally, we have, and Supervisor McGowan has had probably more conversations than I have with county coroners, et cetera. There is a great demand, great need for a countywide morgue. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this facility, the morgue, would provide a revenue stream for the county. I'm not sure how big, but it would be income producing for the county. This building, which we've looked at it, we're not going to demolish it. It would cost a lot to demolish it. And in today's dollars, if you had to replace it, it would be quite a bit. So we want to reuse it. So the county morgue seems to be a good fit, and we've done this preliminary work here and come up with an estimate. Additionally, we're not sure that the morgue would require the full area of that facility. So again, Superintendent Hajos has 4 or 5 consultants on a retainer, if not really retainer, but has 4 or 5 consultants that he has put out requests to see if they would be interested in what their fee would be to do some space planning for this building and look at how much of the space would be required for the countywide morgue and what we might do with the quote excess space. So that's where that stands right now. Anything to add, Supervisor McGowan?
No, thank you, Supervisor Chairman Bruno on facilities there. No, after, working on this for a while, it really makes some great sense because, touching base with some other counties and with the doctors, I've also reached out to Dr. Duffy and possibly looking into maybe some forensic classes over here that the college could add on. So it opportunity.
Let me clarify something. This would be a regional morgue.
Regional morgue.
I may have misled you, not just a county, but a regional morgue. So you'd get a lot of business from surrounding counties.
And it seems to be a problem that we've had really because of space. At the hospitals and the restrictions, with the COVID, and it became it really became more of fruition, through COVID. And unfortunately, we weren't prepared to have it open, but it would really, we have the office space, after reviewing it. And so it really sounds a good direction to move. And like I said, not knowing the space of what we'll need, but this is a good way of, getting a design of what we have and what we need for space. And we can grow from there.
Is there an updated estimate, cost estimate?
No.
Did you say that earlier?
No, we have the estimate for asbestos collective demolition. That's $495,000. The succeeding study would provide details as to cost, the space planning and what it would cost to do that, to accomplish regional morgue and also what the additional space, if there is any, could be used for. So those dollars we don't have yet.
Correct.
So are they ready to proceed with it? Yes, ready to proceed with phase 2, if you will, with the consultant looking at it. Yeah.
Well, we had, unless we change this, about 475 kind of put in a bucket for the old jail abatement.
Mhm.
That's about right. Today's price. Next week might be higher the way things are going.
Yeah, that's in the ballpark of what it would cost for abatement, asbestos abatement, and interior demolition. So beyond that, obviously, whatever the cost for fit up.
Is that to take out the cells, the bars?
Yes.
And the walls in between the cells too?
My understanding.
Wow.
I'm not sure about the walls in between the cells, because the way that floor is up above,
I
it is the
know.
concrete floor, and I believe that's supporting, but the cells definitely, and that center would be a nice chase for, air conditioning, or, refrigerant, piping or any plumbing might needed. What we have is a restricted height of what we can do. So these are the studies that we need, is what can we do with the heights that we have and what we can, do.
Well, that's what I was
And
wondering
it's just
about.
not asbestos.
The removal of the walls would be removing what we can. To your point, whatever is structural, obviously,
Structural, yep.
needs to stay unless we chose to modify that, which you can do, but that gets.
I mean, the last time I went through there, those walls between each cell are pretty substantial walls and little.
Well,
They are.
in between the walls, correct, in between the cells, all right?
Right.
The cells are pinned top and bottom.
Right.
But the problem is that so many years of painting, because it usually got a fresh coat of paint every year, it seemed like. So, along with the asbestos, we have the lead bait. So the cost of that is also with the lead and the asbestos, is removing all those. And then we might be able to knock out some of the walls in between, but the walls from north to south in between that channel, I think is more of the structural walls, from what I understand from the blueprints that I've looked at. So
Okay, so do we have any kind of consensus from the committee that they want to go forward and they want to ask ARPA for money? The ARPA committee for money?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
is this committee interested in entertaining that proposal?
absolutely.
Dennis, I think so too. Okay, so why don't you get Mr. Hajos, who I see on the video, just to provide us some documentation of the request, and we can take that up as a formal action at the next meeting.
I didn't see him there. Mr. Hajos, you have anything to add?
Also, while he's unmuting, I want to spoke. We put aside, I think, 400,000 for this. I know I did. That's not true. 405. Thank you, Wayne. 405. Mr. Hajos?
Knows more about the abatement and demolition.
So just if you're ready for me to speak. So the abatement and demolition cost is going to be somewhere probably about that close to $500,000 mark. As Supervisor McGowan just said, we don't know. It's changing by the day. So it could come in to be more. I would love to cross my fingers and hope to say that it would be less, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. As far as this regional morgue idea, I've since reached out to one of our county coroners, and I'm going to sit down with him, and he named a doctor who's the pathologist in this area. And I will say that I forgot what his name was. We're going to sit down next week and kind of go through the questions and answers for what our consultants would provide us as a letter of authorization to do that work. So I can almost guarantee that's probably, depending on this feasibility that we're looking for just for the regional morgue, it's probably going to be somewhere in the range of about another $10,000, minimum of another $10,000. So that's where we are right now. As far as the demolition, basically, and Supervisor McGowan is correct. It's in reality, it's going to be a shell of a building. Floors, the second floor will be removed. The walls, most of the walls, unless they're structural supportive walls, will be removed. So it'll be an empty shell and abated. And then we can decide from that point if the regional morgue or anything else will fit for that facility.
I will read comment on Zoom. It says, this is from Supervisor Sieber. Sounds like a step in a positive direction for a regional morgue, and I hope members of Intercounty will share this idea and bring the feedback to ARPA so we are able to anticipate regional support and potential for revenue. I mean, if we are going to go forward with the regional morgue, it makes sense to me that other counties would chip in for some of this cost. But we've got to get the jail renovated first. And gutted and
make it work
yeah.
first, and then we can talk to them.
that's Dennis.
Couple questions. Kevin, did you go take the second floor down?
That's correct. We're gonna gut the entire facility.
let's-
we are going to go forward with the regional mortgage, it makes sense to me that other counties would chip in for some of this cost. Oh, that's. But we gotta get the jail. Don't I sound funny?
Did I go in here?
They did. Kevin, the other thing is, if we set aside a certain amount of money and it's more than that, are you gonna be able to make up that difference?
Yeah.
Could you hear Dennis? Kevin, you're muted.
Yes, I did. I believe he said that if it comes in more, we're gonna be able to make up that money. I'm not going to be able to unless I get some type of funding for it. I will tell you that my initial conversation with the coroner that I spoke with this morning basically said to me that this is an area-wide issue. Currently, we take in, well, I don't want to say we take in, I don't want to use the wrong terms, but currently we are assisting Essex County and Clinton County. Saratoga County is currently using the Saratoga Hospital for their morgue facility. Rensselaer County is actually using Dutchess County for theirs. So there is the ability to, I guess, partner up with other counties. And yes, Supervisor Bramer, I would hope the same thing, that they would foot some of the cost of this as well.
Down the road. Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to belabor this too much, but let's get something for the next meeting. Get something on paper and bring it to committee. Okay. All right. Great. And then the other pending item.
When is the next meeting?
August 9th. August 9th. The other pending item had to do with the RFP that was issued. We had authorized an RFP to go out for sort of marketing services to see if we could do anything creative coming out of the pandemic. And we did get our responses back. I just want to see if Administrator Moore could give us an update on that.
Sure, I'd be glad to. We've got approximately 20, a little less than 20 responses back. And we put this out in a very open-ended way where we were soliciting proposals for revitalization and rejuvenation of our local economy. There are a lot of these proposals. We're going to want the new tourism director, whenever he or she is hired, to have their eyes on and discuss with the tourism advisory group that the county has set up. There are a number that fall under that category where I wouldn't necessarily want to advance them or make a decision that they shouldn't be advanced without the input of that department head. Don Lehman is vetting a couple of the ones that are related directly to communications. We have a couple of proposals that those of us who reviewed the RFP responses think are excellent ideas that we believe supervisors will be very interested in. A couple of those seem appropriate for occupancy tax funding, and I've put the information in front of the chair of that committee so we can continue to discuss whether that's a worthwhile avenue for those proposals. And there's at least one proposal that we all thought, and maybe more, but at least one proposal that we all thought may be appropriate for discussion for ARPA funding, at least partial ARPA funding, perhaps a combination of ARPA funds and occupancy tax funds. So the thought we had was potentially to do a joint meeting of those two committees in the near future and discuss that particular proposal. And if the members of those committees are amenable to it, we could discuss the funding split and maybe advance a proposal to the Board of Supervisors. But we were really impressed with the ideas that we got back. A lot of things and that was the purpose of doing it, was to see if there are outside the box ideas that we don't typically think about. And we did get quite a bit of that. So I think it was a useful exercise.
I would suggest that we meet like in a couple of weeks.
Sure.
We got 4 weeks to the next meeting on August 20th. Let's meet in a couple of weeks.
When's the tourism director going to be resolved?
The tourism director, I believe we're waiting for responses from the members of that committee until tomorrow. And then I would suspect that we would schedule some Zoom interviews with additional finalists and move that along. But we'll have more info on that tomorrow.
I think at least for the one or two, I think there were a couple that could come to ARPA. We would want to do something similar, have that those entities come and pitch their proposal to us.
I would think so, yes.
Okay. I think we should give them more than a couple weeks though, Dennis, to schedule that. To get these people in here or no?
Well, I was just trying to move this one along,
Okay,
this particular one, if they can get their stuff together, as they say, by the 20th, they're more than welcome. I mean, by the next meeting, you're more than welcome to come.
I
you're
do-
talking about ARPA meeting or a full board meeting?
ARPA meeting.
Okay,
And I do have on my list of tasks before my departure, I gotta update my projection on occupancy tax budget and where we're at and where we seem to be headed. And those numbers ought to inform this discussion as well as to what kind of funding we may have available.
okay.
We are in a very good position with the occupancy tax, I'll say that.
So you're talking about a joint meeting.
Potentially.
Okay,
Okay, we'll sort that out.
I'll talk to the chairman.
Yes.
Ray, do you want to talk about since we're on pending items, the Glens Falls Hospital?
Sure. The architects have looked at the space and we should have a final estimate actually today, and I'll have a draft proposal to look at on Friday. Just to go over with them, and it will be submitted in plenty of time for them.
With just as a regular application by the August 1st?
Yes.
All right, cool, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then nobody has anything else. The email from Rob, I didn't get a chance to read it. Should I read it out loud or no? Were you guys able to read through it?
No.
Okay, so let me read it fast. The Community Services Board established an ad hoc committee tasked with reviewing and selecting behavioral health project proposals. We are generally following the same process as the county. I assume he means our committee, asking that behavioral health project proposers utilize the application through the ARPA site and adhere to the August 3rd. It's really the first, I believe, deadline. There are checkboxes on the application to indicate if it's a behavioral health project related to Community Services Board. Okay, so then that's probably you, Gina, right? You're gonna forward any of those proposals to Rob. And he's going to share them with the ad hoc committee. Okay, and then there's some stuff in here about procedure, how that's gonna work. Do you want to speak to that, Mike?
Well, I think we're still kind of trying to work that out. I think I wasn't sure exactly how this was supposed to be set up, because my first feeling is that the money was going to go to Mr. York's account, and this board was going to make recommendations as to where Mr. York should disperse that money to. Is that? No. Okay.
No,
Well, that's
no.
because,
We gave it to them to spend it.
yeah, but that board is not an entity
It's not a
unto
real thing.
itself. So it doesn't have bank accounts. It doesn't have any of that. Because it's $1 million, they would have to get an audit. They would have to have outside independent audit. It creates a lot of things that I don't think was the intention of this committee. So I'm not sure where we're really at with it, because I'm not really straight in my mind how it's all supposed to work.
I thought that when we set it up this way, it was to try to make it more streamlined because they do have a process set up already, but I guess they don't really have a process, financing process with their own
Very
bank account. How
difficult.
does it work now? They have
To drop $1 million into an entity that doesn't have any
no, we can't do that.
financial way to deal with it.
Wayne,
My initial discussions with Rob York were that they would be allocated $1 million. They would look at all the mental health applications that come in. Their community services board would work with their other providers and say, here's a package. And here's the work plan of how that $1 million should be spent. And then when they sign off on the work program, you know, because that's what they do is mental health, then the county would just issue a check to that organization based on the sign off by Community Services Board.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying, the same type.
But the
Okay.
money is written by the county, not by the Community Services Board.
And it goes
Correct.
right from the county to whatever entity is
Correct.
providing the services. So it never really goes to the county, to the community services.
Correct.
No, yeah,
Okay,
okay, yeah.
so we're okay.
Well, better, yes.
Yeah, in theory, you know, the mechanics need to be worked out.
Okay,
Mike will make it work.
yes.
I had a question, just so I can inform the folks at the hospital. I suspect that they're thinking a portion of this proposal might be appropriate for the community services board to look at, and a portion of it would be for the regular committee. So just want to make sure that if they check that box, that it doesn't just go to the community services board, to Rob's group, that it also comes to us. Is that
Okay,
acceptable?
well, let's have Gina do that.
Yeah.
Make sure she gives us that one
Well,
from the hospital. And goes there.
my thought is that we'll give this report and we'll itemize all of them and just asterisk the ones that also went to Community Services Board.
Okay,
So that this committee is knowledgeable of who has been routed through Community Services Board and what the ask is.
okay. Yeah, I'd rather be informed than
Yeah,
not.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's good. Then if they run out of their $1 million, we can do something else additional.
Got that?
Okay, good. I know there was some concern about how that was going, so I'm glad think we made it less muddy today.
Yes,
So quick process question then. It first would be, do we need a contract with CSB since we're gonna treat it, it's not gonna directly get money, number one. And number two, I'm pretty confident we want a contract with each recipient that's receiving money through the CSB. And the question is whether that's a contract with the county that the treasurer office wants to see, or a contract with CSB.
I would prefer if the county is depositing the money into individual entities, that we have a contract with that entity, let's say the mental health division of.
Whatever,
Runs Falls
ABC
Hospital.
Corp, whatever it
I'm
is.
just pulling a name out of my hat, but I would prefer that because we're not, and I don't really think we need a contract with the board because they're gonna be, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're more or less gonna be an advisor than anything else. They're gonna say, okay, this is the best way to spend the money to Robert York and to this committee, and then we're gonna basically instruct my office to disperse the money based on those recommendations, correct?
That's not my understanding. My understanding is the CSB is going to make the decision and that the Board of Supervisors delegated to them the authority to decide how to disperse that money.
Okay,
And it's still an entity of the county, but the Board of Supervisors delegated that authority to the CSB to make those decisions. I agree. It sounds like the way we're working it, they don't need some contractual arrangement with the county. But certainly, there's going to be a contract with anyone who receives that money as a recipient.
yes,
If they get to the end and they've got their work plan and they know, X, Y, Z are gonna receive ABC amounts of money, we could bring that through committee. Approve it again, have it go through as a resolution from the full Board of Supervisors saying, this is how we're spending the money that was allocated to the community service.
yeah.
Board. Amanda, does
We're
that,
not giving
work?
any money to the board, so I don't think that we need to have a contract with them, but that's.
If I may.
yeah, wait a minute, I want to hear from Amanda, please.
I think it's okay with Larry, then I think that would work.
Is that better or is that unnecessary to run it back through the Board of Supervisors?
Well, it's certainly going to be cleaner if we can just get one resolution from CSB for all of their disbursements, or at least a large chunk of them. And
Okay,
then we'll just, it'll be like any other award. It'll have to come back up through this committee
that's okay.
to the board. But that'll be what it is. And then
Right.
it'll just be the county distributing the money to those recipients.
Yeah, the resolution, I would request that we do that. And little bit of backside on this. The outside independent auditors that come to the county are going to be auditing everything we do with this. Because basically the federal government has said to them, you are going to audit and make sure that this ARPA money is taken care of properly. So this stuff will be audited, and the more ways we can document it, the better off we are.
Okay, Wayne,
Yeah, my perspective on that was I would like to see a work plan. Not to second guess it, but just to make sure that it complies with the ARPA requirements. That's all. But the
Yep.
only review I
Yeah.
think this committee should do is say, does it meet one of the categories? And is it a legitimate expense? Not to second guess Rob, but just to make sure that we're not open to having to repay some funds because it didn't meet the criteria.
mhm.
I agree, 100%.
Can someone tell Rob this is what we're talking about? Please.
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything further? Yes, Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was asked yesterday, the Public Works Committee was chaired by Supervisor Dickinson yesterday. There was a discussion regarding potential use of ARPA funds for our infrastructure unbudgeted cost overrun projects. And I said to the committee that I would bring this up today. Kevin Hajos, so these are it's two projects basically that I have statistics for. One is for the Stony Creek Road CR2 culvert over number 9 Brook. And the second is for Bay Road, which is County Route 7 over the Glen Lake outlet. And the total roll-up costs between survey, design, right-of-way, acquisitions, construction, and inspection, all in for those two projects is at least $3,418,000. When this was discussed yesterday, the budget officer expressed his support for coming to ARPA with the idea of anywhere from $4 to $5 million. I discussed again with him today in light of the statistics that I got from Mr. Hajos, what he thought would be an appropriate number within that range. He stated that he'd be comfortable with $4 million. Some supervisors, I know Supervisor McGowan outlined support for 5. But I did promise that I would bring this item as a motion to this meeting today for $4 million towards these unbudgeted and unanticipated overruns.
I did chair that committee meeting, and I feel this is a really good project, a really good proposal. These two projects came out of nowhere. They weren't on our agenda. And as you can see, they're quite healthy price tags. So they're not in our budget. And they qualify for the ARPA funds. I think this would be a great use of that money. And I'd like to start with the 4 million. And then see how they do. If they need more at a later date, they can come back. But I think the 4 million will cover these two and really help us, the county, out financially.
Yeah, I would second Mr. Moore's motion that we do appropriate $4 million for infrastructure or lost revenue, however you want to look at it. And because it's not just the culverts, it's several other things that are coming at the county. That it's going to eat into our fund balance rather quickly from seeing. So, I think it would be a good move for the county to appropriate some of this money to help not only the county, but it helps all the taxpayers in the county, because one way or another, they're going to pay for this. And if it's my recollection, when everybody was lobbying for this recovery money, a lot of it was money for governments. That was part of the pitch from NISAC, from all the county governments and from the town governments. When everybody was lobbying their senators and Congress people, that was part of the pitch. So I think it's very.
I'm not sure what to say. I did not see this coming. I think a $3 to $5 million ask is not something you just put on the agenda at the last minute. I I certainly think that we should be supporting government operations. I think, Ryan, how much have we put towards government operations already? A couple million.
Let me see. In terms of the I have my spreadsheet here, for provision of government services. I have, that counts, of course, the countryside, project. I got about $1.5 million so far.
So where would this fit into the overall?
Madam Chair, it's Mike Wild.
Just a second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where would this fit into our overall spending plan? If I recall correctly, we only had like maybe $1 million and a little million and change that we didn't have into a particular bucket. Although I think some of that was in infrastructure. So I mean, that would pull that out, obviously.
Yeah, I think a while back, if memory serves, when we set up the 2 chairs and then we got together, I think we were using as a plug number for this type of thing, $1.2 million. And that was based on, at the time, what the Stony Creek culvert was looking to be. And that went up. That's estimated to be about $1.5 million now, and Bay Road is estimated to be about $2 million. And Bay Road happened after those initial discussions.
Mhm.
And
Supervisor Wild.
Madam Chair, thank you. There's another COVID expense that hasn't been brought up yet. And that's the salary increases that we need to do for the county employees. And that's a direct relation to the COVID response that the government did with all the money that they gave to everyone. And we have, I saw some projections from Ryan Moore that I think it's 4 or 5 years, and our fund balance will be depleted so much so that we won't even be at the minimum required. So I'm in support of this, whether it's 4 or 5, I don't know. But this, as Supervisor Thomas mentioned, does affect every single resident in the county, because we'll have to raise taxes to cover that deficit. So to me, it makes sense to do it out of ARPA, and we just adjust some of our funding.
2 points on that. I mean, we do have a general fund. And on the salary increases, we have been talking about trying to do something for the employees, and the negotiating committee did not come to us for any money. So I suppose we could still do something separately with providing premium pay to the non-union employees or something like that. But in any case, Mike.
Excuse me, yeah, I guess I kind of am to blame for why this is a last minute thing, because I made a passionate plea to the DPW department or committee meeting about how I felt that the original thought to take this money out of our general fund would be a huge mistake down the road. And I plan at finance to make that another dissertation and for the board. I don't think it's necessary here, but I hate to be the doom and gloom guy, but we're going to hit a recession here pretty quick. 2023 isn't going to be too bad. I'm scared to death about what's going to happen in 2024. And I really think if we have another way of funding this, we should explore it very hard, because I know that it doesn't sound like much, 3.5 or even $4 or $5 million when we have $36 million fund balance. But if our sales tax goes flat, I only got 2 months worth of expenses I can pay. What happens the 3rd month? I mean, I lived through that last time when the bottom fell out and we had $2 million left in the county and we were borrowing money to make payroll at 8%. So I hate to sound like doom and gloom, but I lived it once. I don't want to do it again. I mean, Wayne's department was completely gutted that last time around. And it wasn't pleasant for him either.
No.
And I don't want to see that happen again. We saved all this money to get us through a bad time. Let's not spend too much of it now when we have an alternative way to cover that expense.
Well, I am, like I said, I'm not opposed to that. I guess I should hear from the rest of the committee if they're prepared to support a resolution today for 4 million. I mean, 4 million, yeah, isn't a ton out of our general fund, but it is a big hunk of ARPA, which You know, if that's what we're gonna do, is that it then? Is that going to satisfy people that we put the money toward, you know, we're not gonna put any more money towards roads? Cause I knew that that was something people are looking to do with ARPA funds. But we had the 1.2 million. And we have however many of these applications where are we going? Is my question.
So I appreciate absolutely how serious this is, and Mike and I completely the point of view with regard to the recession. My concern is the public survey we did and what that pointed people towards. And, you know, there's what, 7 million here, and we aren't even anywhere near the deadline. And I believe that 4 million, if we did 4 million, that's half of what we have left, and it's a full third of the entire ARPA allocation. So I understand the financial side of it, but I'm really concerned as Joe Public here that is that the way to use that money when there's so many other things that are out there that were affected by COVID that we could address. So it's a conundrum to me. I get it, you guys. I totally get it, but that worries me.
Mr. Alman?
I just wanted to advise the committee that I became aware of this around 3, and that's what I was working on during the earlier discussion, is just looking at how this falls under the rule. And to me, it seems like it would be an appropriate use under the Treasury Rule 35.6 subsection E, which is for necessary infrastructure relating to water and sewer and broadband. Additionally, when you look at the Federal Register commentary issued by the treasurer, they specifically address stormwater management expenses under various federal programs. So it does appear to clearly fit under Treasury's guidance as an appropriate use under that subsection E.
What, I don't know the project. I was not, I may have been on yesterday, but I don't know the projects exactly, but I think Supervisor Thomas mentioned it has to do with culverts, and I'm sure that that would fit under water, stormwater infrastructure stuff. I'm not too concerned about that. It's just, what are we doing then with the rest of the funding? I mean, I could support probably, if you're saying 2, I could support half that.
I
I'd say,
personally think that if you look at all the projects that you do and you start prioritizing, this is one that will come right to the top. It's not an issue of let's do it next year. The existing situation is on Quaker Road, the bigger one, is a culvert, and the culvert has failed. It's failed now. It's not waiting around for us. The regulations, as always, have changed. We can no longer replace it with a culvert. We need to do a more significant structure, and which has driven up the cost. They're over there now, tearing the road up. It's a priority. There are a lot of projects that we have in front of us, but to me, this is one of the major priorities, and I think we should move on it.
how is it getting paid for if we're moving forward with it now? What is the,
Kevin, that
do we have some sort of creative thing in place right now? Oh, sorry, Kevin. I'm looking at Mike.
No, what I can tell you now is we're currently using our capital project, which is local bridge and culvert money, which was not pegged for this work. We're postponing work on maintenance work on other bridge and culvert projects throughout the county and using that money currently to fund the work that we're doing now. And I just want to correct Dennis, it's not that one actually at Quaker. That's the federal aid project. It's the one at Walk Up Road. But it's still the same situation. It's a class culvert and it needs to be fixed.
Madam,
Well, that raises a question. Are there any other grant funding opportunities for something like this? Have we gone after that? Regional Planning Board or the Northern Regional, whatever it is, Commission?
If you're asking me if we've gone after anything else, no, we have not. And Beth, I believe, is there. So Beth can answer the question whether there's any more grant funding, but I don't believe there is. And these don't fall under the TIP award for federal aid projects. And that process would not happen in a short period of time that we need to get these fixed. The impact is currently we have a single lane going to Stony Creek right now, and the other one at Bay Road is completely closed. So people are being diverted around it.
Right, yep. Ryan,
Yeah, I mean, the answer, the reason this came up yesterday is this was an agenda item that Kevin brought to the Public Works Committee, and I think the request to the committee, I don't have my papers in front of me. I think it was 3.5 million from the fund balance. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's what generated this discussion yesterday.
Mike?
I mean, we have the money to front so that this work can get done, and it has to get done. I mean, Stony Creek is a one-lane road basically to get to the town. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and trucks can't go over.
Yeah.
Any kind of delivery truck or probably even school bus would have to go back up through Thurman.
But we have enough money to front the project. Okay, it's just a matter of at the end of the year where we put it all. And so I guess, I would say that, did we actually have a motion? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
There
We did.
is, yeah.
Okay. All right, then I'm gonna not say anymore.
I can see where you stand. I would ask that it's the motion or, withdraw that so we can put it on an agenda and have something in front of us on paper.
I don't have.
Just like we did with the other one, which I've already forgotten now, but we want to go forward with that too,
I'm done withdrawing it.
not withdrawing it.
No.
So the motion is, does anyone else have further discussion? Beth, do you have any insight on the grants or no, not really?
So it depends on the reason, but Kevin kind of alluded to it. If you apply for a grant now, even if you get it, you're awarded in December. And we had grants awarded in this past December. We're now sitting here in July. We don't even have contract. Like I don't even have actually an invitation for a work plan, let alone a contract from the state. So you're a year easy, year and a half. And then if you do it now, there's rules whether you can retroact or not. So, if you do the project now, you generally don't apply for a grant while you're doing the project and then pay back the grant. Or pay back with the grant. So I think we're a little too far down the road to look for grant funding for it.
How about the Stony Creek one? That was the one that was originally contemplated, right? This has been in the works for a while.
Yeah, it's been, since
Oh, I'm
February.
sorry.
It's been out since February. It was, the county put a piece of steel across the one section of culvert that's still kind of there. And that's what people are traveling.
But I don't think there was a plan to do that, was there? I think this.
No,
is damage.
DPW started doing planning work when they noticed that it was first having a problem. And then we got a heavy rainstorm, I think in March or April, and that pretty much took care of the situation. And they closed the road, and I think we've been getting permits, actually. I think that's kind of where we're still at with the DEC and the APA. I think we're still waiting on permits. And then they were going to install a temporary bridge and rip out the culvert and replace it. But we haven't gotten there yet.
Brian, did you have your hand up earlier? Or was that Larry?
No.
No.
I'm good.
All right,
Wayne has.
Wayne.
I hear Kevin, Kevin's number was 3.5 million. I'm not adverse to the 4, if it includes the jail. I don't think there'd be anything more out of infrastructure out of the ARPA funds, beyond the 4. It's not to come back and ask for, the Joe Warren Center or any of those others. I think as Ray pointed out, it's a third of the money. As a taxpayer, I don't want my property taxes to go up. This was and I'm sure my neighbors who are much older than I am, don't want to see that either. So as was alluded to by Frank and others, is that was one of the purposes of the money to begin with, was to, impacts from COVID. Well, the escalation in prices we're seeing across the board on all the projects as a direct result of the COVID impact. So, there's a lot of other projects requests coming in, whether they would meet the funding threshold that we would look at. I don't know, but again, this is we saw that with the Glens Falls Transportation Council. I mean, the project for 1.2 million, they need another 800,000. It's just the way the market's going. So, and these are projects that need to get done.
Is that a motion to amend the motion to include the jail
Yes.
at 500,000?
Infrastructure, it caps, the infrastructure caps it to include those two projects. And if they can get the money that they want out of there for the Joe Warren Center, God bless them.
Do I have a second to that sort of nebulous amendment?
I'll second that.
I'll take a vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I mean, I'm willing to concede to it if he's, I thought that's what he was asking.
Yeah.
It's I don't recall who seconded my initial motion, but if whoever did that is amenable to it, I'll just amend my motion.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it was Dennis who seconded. I'm sorry, Amanda?
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Whoever it was.
So I'll amend the motion to have the $4 million include the culverts as well as any other general government infrastructure projects that we may have.
Okay, do you agree with that amendment to the
Yeah.
motion? Any discussion now on the amended motion?
Yeah, Larry was asking in terms of where it fits in. I think I know the answer to his question, but if I don't, he can clarify. But the culverts are a category by themselves. They're within the way the final rule is broken out. It's Roman numeral 1 is intro, and then there's eligible uses, then ineligible uses, et cetera. Under eligible uses, there's 4 categories: public health and economic impacts, premium pay, revenue loss, and water, sewer, broadband infrastructure. So culverts is in that 4th group. The revenue loss, the 3rd group, is for general government. So if we were doing, and I actually verified this with Matt Chase a couple of months ago. If we were to do a project like the Joseph Warren House, it's a county-owned building, you can do it under general government. If you want, the morgue, I asked him this question as well. You can do the morgue under general government. There is a separate infrastructure category within the 1st group, public health and economic impacts. That's where you have infrastructure projects that are related to public health and negative economic impacts from the pandemic. And that's where they put a limitation of $1 million. And if a project is $1 million or more within that subcategory, you have to do additional reporting. So, but that's there. Then there's general government building expenses, and then there's culverts that are under wastewater infrastructure. So it'd be a hodgepodge.
Okay, I think we'd be fine though. We can frame the resolution this way, knowing that it'll have to be pigeonholed into the ARPA categories a little bit differently.
Larry can read.
Larry can figure it out.
Good job.
All right, yes,
Just
right.
last comment, I feel like I haven't had time to digest it all. And it feels like such a huge chunk out of it, so just wanted to express that.
Anybody else? Okay, Dennis, should I call the question?
Call the question.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So I have 1 opposed.
Two.
That carries. 2 opposed? No, I think Mike was saying aye. Right?
Do you want to do a roll call?
No, I think Supervisor Wild,
Yes, I'm an aye.
an aye, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. That passes.
Thank you.
Any further millions of dollars resolutions at the end of the meeting?
Sorry.
We spend the rest, we don't need another meeting.
We have a good chunk and I want to honor what the public wants us to do with this money.
So do I.
We have our meeting on the 9th and we will go start driving through these applications.
Before that,
Yes,
and before that meeting, as soon as Gina gets the list together after the first, you want us to email it?
yeah,
Yes, please.
yes,
Okay,
please.
and it won't be all the applications, it'll just be the list,
Mhm.
what's coming through. We'll try to break it out by the categories. And we'll take a stab at it. If you don't like it, well, then we'll let you do it. So.
And we also did an update of the accounting of like all of it. 'Cause I know this is just contracts, but like the county stuff and countryside, so we just get $1.
Yeah,
Gina's got all
we
the
have that.
solutions and she'll do a.
And Sarah did a nice thing for us before with the little chart graphic thing showing the new applications that came in. Maybe she can update that for us for next
Okay.
week. If she has.
That's it,
time.
yeah. Yeah,
Larry, I saw your hand.
I don't consider myself important, but I will not be here on the 9th. And that meeting does sound like a key meeting to make sure we're classifying funds properly. I just wanted to let the committee know that I won't be back in town until the 11th.
Okay,
But somebody from my office will be here.
we'll share the list with you beforehand
Thank you.
or your office. Yeah.
Based on that motion, there's
Yeah.
no need to come back for funding for the regional morgue and the 9th.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, public comment is Don on? I don't even see Don. There's no public here. Motion to adjourn. Dennis?
Don is here and there is no comment.
Thank you, Don.
majority of
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all.